Hello YouTube, what is up? This is AMK at Purple Sky 11 and welcome to Season 2, Episode number 1 of my Truth About series, The Owen Hart Files. In Season 1, I covered every page of the Benoit investigation files, and now this series will focus on the pages of the Owen Hart investigation documents. The pages that I will dig through in this series are real. 73 pages of evidence gathered by the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department that I obtained via open records request. In the Benoit series, my aim was to go through the evidence and reports in the police files and determine whether the evidence was solid enough to convict Benoit beyond all reasonable doubt. For this Owen Hart series, what I'm hoping to find in these documents is evidence that proves Owen's death was indeed an accident as claimed. See, it's fairly simple. If the facts support the claim, then those facts should be within these 73 pages. But if you've watched the Benoit series, then you're well aware that things are not always as they seem. That being said, any opinions and/or observations raised during the reading are my own and should in no way be treated as expert knowledge or advice. I'm just a girl on a YouTube channel playing the role of a hypothetical juror, objectively examining the evidence and forming logical conclusions based on the facts as they are presented within the documents. And just as it was in the Benoit series, each new episode will build upon information learned in previous videos. So be sure to subscribe and click that bell so you receive notifications when new videos drop. While you're down there, if you're interested in supporting the channel, you can find a link to my Cash App in the description box. No donation is too small, and it is your support that keeps this channel going. So to get this season started, I think what I'm going to do first is briefly go over the mainstream media story, just as I did with Benoit. And then from there, we'll dive headfirst into the police documents and look at a few witness statements. I think the most obvious place to find the official story, or as I like to call it, the story that is most commonly accepted as the truth, is of course Wikipedia. We have to start somewhere, so I'm starting there. Let's go! So here we are at the Wikipedia page for Owen Hart. I'm going to read this little biography section and then we're going to skip to the section about his death, since that's essentially what we're going to be focusing on in this series. Okay, so let's get started. This says Owen James Hart. He was born May 7th, 1965, and his date of death was May 23rd, 1999. Owen Hart was a Canadian professional wrestler who worked for several promotions, including Stampede Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, or NJPW, World Championship Wrestling, or WCW, and the World Wrestling Federation, or the WWF. He received most of his success in the WWF, where he wrestled under both his own name and the ring name, the Blue Blazer. A member of the Hart wrestling family, he was born in Calgary, Alberta, in Canada, the youngest of 12 children of Stampede Wrestling promoters Stu and Helen Hart. Among other accolades, Owen was a one-time USWA Unified World Heavyweight Champion, a two-time WWF Intercontinental Champion, a one-time WWF European Champion, and a four-time WWF World Tag Team Champion, as well as the 1994 WWF King of the Ring. He headlined multiple pay-per-view events for the WWF and was widely regarded as one of the company's best in-ring performers. Owen Hart died on May 23, 1999, during his entrance from the rafters of Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri, United States. The equipment that was lowering him to the ring malfunctioned, and he fell to his death in front of a live audience and live on pay-per-view during WWF's Over the Edge event. And now from here, we'll skip to the part of the wiki page about his death. Okay, so on May 23rd, 1999, Hart fell to his death in Kansas City, Missouri, during the Over the Edge pay-per-view event. Hart was in the process of being lowered via harness and grapple line into the ring from the rafters of Kemper Arena for a booked Intercontinental Championship match against The Godfather. In keeping with the Blazers' new, buffoonish superhero character, he was to begin a dramatic entrance, being lowered to just above ring level, at which time he would act entangled, and then release himself from the safety harness and fall flat on his face for comedic effect. This necessitated the use of a quick-release mechanism. It was an elaboration on a Blue Blazers stunt that was done previously on the Sunday Night Heat before Survivor Series in 1998. While being lowered into the ring, Hart fell 78 feet or 24 meters, landing chest first on the top rope, approximately a foot from the nearest turnbuckle, throwing him into the ring. Hart had performed the stunt only a few times before, and Hart's widow, Martha, had suggested that by moving around to get comfortable with both the harness and his cape on, that Hart had unintentionally triggered an early release. Television viewers did not see the incident. During the fall, a pre-taped vignette was being shown on the pay-per-view broadcast, as well as on the monitors in the darkened arena. Afterward, while Hart was being worked on by medical personnel inside the ring, the live events broadcast showed only the audience. Meanwhile, WWF television announcer Jim Ross repeatedly told those watching live on pay-per-view that what had just transpired was not a wrestling angle or storyline, and that Hart was hurt badly, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation. Hart was transported to Truman Medical Center in Kansas City. While several attempts to revive him were made, he died due to his injuries. The cause of death was later revealed to be internal bleeding from blunt force trauma. The impact severed his aorta, resulting in Hart bleeding to death just minutes later. He was 34 years old. And now about some controversy surrounding his death. WWF management controversially chose to continue the event. Later, Jim Ross announced the death of Hart to the home viewers during the pay-per-view, but not to the crowd in the arena. While the event went on, it has never been released commercially by WWF Home Video. In 2014, 15 years after his death, the WWE Network aired the event for the first time. A small photo tribute is shown before the start, informing fans that Hart died during the original broadcast. All footage of Hart was edited out of the event. The statement reads, "In memory of Owen Hart, May 7, 1965 to May 23, 1999, who accidentally passed away during this broadcast." In the decades that followed Hart's death, much attention was focused on the harness Hart used that night, especially on the quick-release trigger and safety latches. When someone is lowered from the rafters in a harness, there are backup latches that must be latched for safety purposes. 4 weeks after the event, the Hart family sued the WWF over how dangerous and poorly planned the stunt was, and that the harness system was defective. After over a year and a half into the case, a settlement was reached on November 2, 2000, which saw the WWF pay the Hart family $18 million. The manufacturer of the harness system was also a defendant against the Hart family, but they were dismissed from the case after the settlement was reached. Martha used millions of the settlement to establish the Owen Hart Foundation. Martha wrote a book about Hart's life in 2002 called Broken Hearts: The Life and Death of Owen Hart. In his DVD set, Bret Hart said that he wishes he had been with the WWF the night Owen's accident happened, as he would have discouraged his brother from performing the stunt. And I'm pretty sure that the reason that Bret Hart was not with WWF at the time of his brother Owen's accident was because of that little thing known as the Montreal Screwjob. But that's a whole nother video. And looking a bit at the aftermath, this says a special episode of Raw is War that aired on May 24th, 1999, the night after Hart's death, was dubbed Raw is Owen. It was broadcast live from the Kiel Center in St. Louis. It included shoot interviews from his fellow wrestlers. According to Raw Exposed, a special that aired upon Raw returning to USA Network on October 3rd, 2005, all storylines and rivalries were put aside, and WWF management gave all wrestlers on the roster the option of working or not. Nevertheless, 10 matches were booked with no angles. The show began with all the wrestlers, managers, referees, and agents of the WWF, except WWF champion The Undertaker and Kane, both as a means to keep kayfabe. Well, that's weird. I mean, if there ever was a time to break kayfabe, you'd think this would qualify. But anyway, they were all standing on the entrance ramp. Howard Finkel called for a 10-bell salute. A tribute video narrated by Vince McMahon then played on the Titantron. Throughout the broadcast, personal thoughts on Hart in the form of shoot interviews with various WWF wrestlers were played. Hart's former Nation of Domination comrades were emotional, most notably Mark Henry, who wept as he read a poem that he wrote in memory of Hart. Before the first commercial break, such thoughts were aired from Mick Foley and Bradshaw. Foley said that Hart was his son's favorite wrestler and had proudly gotten a haircut like Owen's, although he also said his son did not quite understand that nugget was not a term of endearment. Bradshaw talked about how Hart spent less money on the road than most wrestlers because he wanted to retire early and spend time with his family. Owen's friend and Nation of Domination partner, The Rock, also made a short speech before engaging in a short match against Val Venis. Test then spoke about a rib Owen pulled on him. The broadcast ended with Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out for a special salute to Hart by climbing the turnbuckle and performing his famous beer bash routine, ending with him giving a toast to Owen, whose picture was displayed on the Titantron throughout the entire show, and leaving one beer in the ring for Owen. The tribute show scored a 7.2 Nielsen rating. Wow! Making it the highest-rated special episode in Raw history and the third highest-rated episode of Raw overall. Shawn Michaels, in his Heartbreak and Triumph autobiography, notes that, quote, Owen is the only guy you could have a 2-hour show for and no one would say a bad word about him, end quote. The next day, WWF taped the episode of Raw for May 31st, 1999, and during that show, Jeff Jarrett defeated The Godfather to win the WWF Intercontinental Championship, which was the title Hart was booked to win for a third time at the Over the Edge event. Celebrating his victory, Jarrett screamed Hart's name. On October 4th, 1999, 5 months after Owen's death, Bret Hart faced Chris Benoit on WCW Nitro in a tribute to his brother. The match took place in the same arena in which Owen had fallen to his death. And I just completed an entire series of videos going through the Benoit investigation dossier. You can find a link to that playlist in the description box if you're interested. In 2017, Ross referred to Hart's death as the single most shocking moment he had ever witnessed in wrestling. And then here in this legacy section of the Wikipedia page, there's just a few points I wanted to touch on. First, here it says that Owen Hart was widely regarded as one of the best in-ring performers in the WWE. Fox Sports dubbed him a genius, and he would go on to be considered one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time by many industry colleagues. And then skipping a few, it says here that the Season 2 finale of Dark Side of the Ring revealed details about Owen's wrestling career, legacy, and death. So I'm definitely going to have to check that out. This says WWE wrestler Kevin Owens named his son after Hart and incorporated the name into his own ring name as tribute to both of them. And I did not know that. And I'm a huge fan of Kevin Owens. But, that being said, I'm not the type of fan who obsesses over knowing every little detail about everything. I just know what I like and I just go with that. But that's pretty cool to know. And then this says that during Mark Henry's WWE Hall of Fame induction in 2018, Henry asked Martha Hart to allow her late husband to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Martha has been critical of the WWE Hall of Fame, stating, quote, "They don't even have a hallway of fame. It doesn't exist. There's nothing. It's a fake entity. There's nothing real or tangible. It's just an event they have to make money. They put it on TV and have a celebration, and it's just so ridiculous. I would never even entertain it. It's garbage." End quote. Ooh, that's interesting because I have my own personal thoughts about the Hall of Fame, but that's another story. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was that it says on September 20th, 2021, All Elite Wrestling, AEW, announced the Owen Hart Cup tournament in partnership with the Owen Hart Foundation, wherein the winner will receive a trophy called the Owen. The company also announced production and distribution of original Owen Hart merchandise, and Hart as a character in AEW's upcoming console game, AEW Fight Forever. Alright, so with that brief summary of events leading up to Owen Hart's death and the aftermath, let's take a look at the documents. We're going to start our timeline on the date of Owen Hart's death and the day police arrived on the scene at Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri, May 23rd, 1999. So let's get started digging into those pages. Alright, so here we are on the first page of 73 pages of Owen Hart documents. So let's start here on page 1 and we'll see how far we get today. So as you can see to the top right here, this is page 1 of 73, and at the top of the page, Kansas City, Missouri Police Department Investigative Report Case Document. You can see the supplemental case number right here, title of investigation, dead body. Victim, Owen J. Hart, white male, birth date May 7th, 1965, and there's an address there. And you can see right here, subject of report, this is a witness interview. And the name of the witness is Jim C. Vinzant, and this is a report that was prepared by Detective Rickett, Homicide Unit, and the date is May 23rd, 1999. And there's one page of this report. So this is the witness interview, and the witness is Jim C. Vinzant. And this says that on May 23rd, 1999 at 8:56 p.m., Detective W. Martin and the reporting detective, who was this Detective Rickett, they responded to 1800 Genesee Kemper Arena regarding a dead body. Upon arrival, contact was made with Jim Vinzant, who is a rigger with local number 31 of the Teamsters, who stated he is responsible for the rigging of the cables for shows at Kansas City, Missouri-owned facilities. He stated that they are under contract with the city. He stated that on May 23, 1999, during the day hours, that he and James Williams were on the catwalk, assembling the rigging for the World Wrestling Federation's show. He stated that Bobby Tolbert and the victim were also present when the rigging was assembled. He stated, and again, he is Jim C. Vinzant, the witness. He stated that he and James Williams assembled the span sets and bridles in the ceiling, however had no affiliation with the actual harness the victim was wearing. He stated that the harness was a product of the World Wrestling Federation. Oh, the harness was a product of the World Wrestling Federation. Okay, I'll talk about that if I have to later. Right now I'm not going to assume anything. I'm right here now. He stated that during the actual show, Bobby Tolbert hooked up the victim. And I don't like how they keep referring to Owen Hart as victim in here. I mean, I get that he was the victim, but I really don't like repeating it over and over, so I'm just going to say his name, okay? So this Jim Vinzant, again, this witness, he stated that during the actual show, Bobby Tolbert hooked up Owen Hart, and that he, Jim Vinzant, shined the flashlight on Owen Hart so that Bobby Tolbert could hook him up. Jim Vinzant stated that Bobby Tolbert, quote, almost lifted Owen up, checking to make sure it was secure, end quote. While Owen, Bobby Tolbert, James Williams, and himself were on the catwalk. He stated that Owen put his mask and cape on. He stated that Owen had difficulty climbing over the railing. He stated that he, Jim Vinzant, raised Owen's cape up so that Owen could step over the railing. He stated that Owen was continually adjusting the rubber band that was holding his cape around his hand. He stated that the rope that was to be used to lower Owen Hart to the floor was laid out along the catwalk. He stated that he was watching the rope to make sure it did not snag on the catwalk. He stated that he looked away from Owen, then looked back at Owen as he was falling and, quote, spirally clockwise. He stated that Owen fell back first. He stated that he saw Owen land on someone in the wrestling ring, and then he hit the deck inside of the ring. Jim Vinzant stated that he did not think that Owen seemed very experienced with the stunt, and that he, Jim Vinzant, would not have had Owen perform the stunt with the harness system that was used because it has minimal safety. He stated that he left the arena at 1500 hours or 3 o'clock p.m. and returned at 1700 hours or 5 o'clock p.m. He stated that he was aware that the stunt was initially tested with sandbags and then by Matt Allman, who assisted Bobby Tolbert. He stated that he was unaware if Owen had practiced the stunt. Okay, so this Matt Allman, he's the one who tested this stunt. It sounds like the only human being who tested this stunt. And before that, it was tested with sandbags. So then there's the signature of the supervisor. And it's set up here that this was 1 out of 1 pages. So that was Jim Van Zant's witness statement. Okay, we're going to move on to page 2. This is another witness interview. As we can see right here, witness interview, and this is the same title of investigation, the same case number, and this witness interview is James S. Williams. And you can see again here the Detective Rickett Homicide Unit, and this was on May 23rd of 1999, and 1 out of 1 pages. Now, if you remember from the first witness interview that we just looked at, James Williams was named as one of the people who was on the catwalk when Owen fell. So this is now his witness interview. So on May 23rd, 1999, at 8:56 p.m., Detective W. Martin and the reporting detective, again, Detective Rickett, responded to Kemper Arena, 1800 Genesee, regarding a dead body. Upon arrival, contact was made with James Williams, who is a rigger with local number 31 of the Teamsters. He stated that he is responsible for assembling the riggings associated with shows on property owned by the city of Kansas City, Missouri. James Williams stated that he and Jim Van Zant were working fire patrol on the catwalk, which meant he was watching for problems associated with Owen's act. He stated that Owen and Bobby Tolbert walked up to the catwalk and Owen was in coveralls. He stated that Owen took the coveralls off and Bobby Tolbert put the harness on Owen. He stated that this occurred 10 minutes before Owen fell from the catwalk. What? Just 10 minutes? That seems rushed. I'd think you'd want to be harnessed up and ready to go more than just... I don't know. Again, I don't know the details. I don't know how soon he fell. Like, was he supposed to be on his way into the ring when he fell, or did he fall prior to his cue to enter the arena? I don't know. We're going into this one paragraph at a time. But this says that this occurred 10 minutes before Owen fell from the catwalk, that the harness was put on him. And this James Williams, he stated that Owen was hooked up with a lanyard system, which allowed a safety mechanism for Owen to pull to release the rope connections. He stated that Owen walked out from the catwalk onto a crossover bar, and Bobby Tolbert had Owen kneel over to check the tension. Okay. He stated that Owen fell, and he saw Owen's shoulder strike a strut with his shoulder. He stated that the catwalk was close to Owen when he fell. He stated that when this occurred, Bobby Tolbert was controlling the rope that Owen was attached to. James Williams stated that there was a quick release on the harness system. He stated that Bobby Tolbert triple-checked the connections on the harness. He stated that the harness system that was used was more designed for art than for safety. What? He stated that the harness system that was used was more designed for art than safety. He stated that the quick release is more of a stunt item than a safety item. Well, that's concerning. To me, that's important to note. Why was it more of an art item than a safety item? Then it says James Williams stated that he did not know why the connections did not work, but that he believed that Owen hit the strut or catwalk, or that there was a mechanical failure. Well, not maybe. I think it's probable there was a mechanical failure if you're using a harness system that's more designed for art than for safety. But that's just me. That kind of makes me feel uncomfortable. And then that was the end of James Williams' statement. And I'm skipping over page 3 for right now because that page is a report from a later date. And I want to stick to these witness interviews for this video. So going on to page 4, you can see we have another witness interview. And the witness is Mark Yeaton from Stamford, Connecticut. And all the information is the same here. Detective Rickett, Homicide Unit, May 23rd again, and 1 out of 1 pages. This says that on May 23rd, 1999, at 8:56 p.m., Detective W. Martin and the reporting detective responded to 1800 South Genesee regarding a dead body. Upon arrival, contact was made with Mark Yeaton, Event Operations Manager of Titan Sports, who is the parent company for the World Wrestling Federation. information. Mark Yeaton stated that Owen Hart is an employee of Titan Sports, and that for the specific information of Owen Hart, the person to contact would be Lynn Brent, Talent Relations Manager of Titan Sports at, and then I redacted the number, on 5/23/1999 at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, that feels cold. Just regular business hours then, I guess. And is it standard for the event operations manager for WWF parent company to be at these shows? Mark Yeaton then stated that Rich Herring is the contact person with Titan Sports, and that he will be doing their internal investigation. He stated his phone number is, and then I redacted it. Mark Yeaton, who has one of the most difficult names to pronounce in all of human history, stated that all he knew about Owen Hart was that he was from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and that Owen's wife had been notified by the World Wrestling Federation. And that's that, I guess. And I think I have 2 more witness statements I'd like to get through today, and then I think we're at a good point to cut off for this video. But this one, we have another witness interview, Matt W. Allman from Orlando, Florida, of all places. And all of the info is the same. We're still on May 23rd, 1 out of 1 pages. This says that on May 23rd, 1999 at 8:56 p.m., the detectives responded to the same address, Kemper Arena, regarding the above-captioned dead body. Upon arrival, contact was made with Matt Allman, who stated that he is a contract rigger with the World Wrestling Federation. He stated that on May 20th, 1999, Bobby Tolbert contacted him and asked him to come to Kansas City to help him assemble the riggings associated with the show. So this guy's a contract rigger with the WWF, and they call him in from Florida. Why call somebody in from Florida? And this guy, Matt Allman, he says that his position was to be on the floor of the arena when Owen Hart came down the rope and to take the harness off of Owen. Matt Allman stated that during the day hours, he and Bobby Tolbert worked on the harness system that Owen was to use. He stated that they first tried the system with sandbags, and then he personally tried the system. Okay, so this is the guy, this is Matt Allman, and he's the one human being who personally tried the system. And these sandbags they used to test this rigging, Owen Hart's weight was billed at 227 pounds. Did they use 227 pounds or greater weight in sandbags? I hope so. It says he stated that later on, Owen tried one practice run with the system. Okay, so Owen did one test. Good to know. Matt Allman stated that Owen took a bag to the catwalk with him. He stated that he was standing outside the perimeter wall around the ring, and he noticed something coming from the ceiling. However, he did not think that the item that was coming from the ceiling was Owen Hart. He stated that he saw Owen hit the ropes around the ring and land on his back on the floor. He stated that he then thought that he saw Owen move his arms and legs. This says Matt Allman stated that the system they used was called a rack, where a series of bars restricted the movement of the rope as Owen descended to the floor. He stated that the end of the rope is marked with tape to show the end of the rope for the person who holds the end of the rope and controls the descent. Now, I was just laughing at how that report is worded there, but dear God, I don't like how this sounds. Was this honestly just some jank rig where Owen was lowered by some dude holding the end of a rope? In my head before, I had imagined this was some fancy zipline system, but 4 pages in and this feels like an accident was bound to happen. So this Matt Allman, he stated that the system had a quick release snap shackle. He stated that the quick release was designed to have a 6,000 pound braking strength and a 2,200 pound working load. He stated that braking strength is the maximum strength of the release, and the working load is the amount the release should hold with repeated use. Okay, so then it says, Matt Allman stated that Owen Hart had done similar stunts in the past, and the stunt had been done by other wrestlers in the past. Matt Allman also stated that Owen was originally supposed to land where he fell on the floor of the ring. Oh, well, pat yourself on the freaking back, why don't you? I guess at least you guys hit the mark. I mean, what the fuck? Okay, one more witness interview, and this is an interview with Eric Araujo, and this report is by Detective Robert Gibbs from the Homicide Unit, and now we're on May 24th, and this is the day following the fall. 1 out of 1 pages, which is important to note because that's a good way to tell if any pages are missing. You know, if it says 1 out of 2 pages and well, you get it. So this says on May 24th, 1999 at 8:45 a.m., the reporting detective, who was this Robert Gibbs, it says that this reporting detective was contacted by Jim Fitzgerald of the TIPS hotline in regard to information he had received on the listed dead body. He stated he was presently on the phone with a party who was at the wrestling match at Kemper Arena on 5/23/99. A party who identified himself as Eric Araujo was subsequently interviewed. Mr. Araujo stated at the time of Mr. Hart's fall, he was in a conversation with one of his friends and observed an object falling from the ceiling to the ground. He stated he first thought the object that he observed falling was a speaker. However, when he looked closer, he observed it to be the body of a man. He stated he did not see where in the rafters the man fell from because he did not observe him until he descended about half the distance to the floor. He stated after observing the man fall, he looked to the rafters above the area where the man had landed and observed a white male running along the rafters. He stated he watched this party descend from the rafters and run through the crowd to the lobby area. He stated about 30 to 45 minutes later, he observed a party walking in the rafters. He stated this party walked over to the area in which he saw the white male run from and pick up a black bag and carry it away. Whoa, shit, this just turned into the opening chapter of a detective novel, didn't it? Let's go through that again. He stated that after observing the man fall, he looked to the rafters above the area where the man had landed and observed a white male running along the rafters. He stated he watched this party descend from the rafters and run through the crowd to the lobby area. And then about 30 to 45 minutes later, he observed another party walking in the rafters, or was it the same party? Did he run down and back? Or did this guy who ran through the crowd to the lobby area leave the arena? Where did he go? And then who was this guy? This party who walked over to the area where the guy ran from, and he picked up a black bag and carried it away? What was this bag? The other witness, Matt Allman, in his statement, he made sure to tell police that Owen had a bag with him. I'll put a screenshot of that statement here. Was that the bag this mystery person took? If somebody ran up there to grab Owen's bag after he fell, what do you think could have been in that bag that was so important to whoever took it? I suppose we also need to consider that this witness was a fan attending the event, so it is possible this person was looking for drama or 5 minutes of fame. Also, depending where this guy was sitting and the lighting, how clear could he really see? I will definitely be looking for more information about this within these pages. But to continue with this witness statement, Eric Araujo describes this person he saw take the bag as a white male in his mid to late 20s, 6 foot tall, 150 to 170 pounds, with shoulder-length black hair, wearing a short-sleeved black shirt and dark pants. He stated he could not say for certainty, but he thought there was a 70% possibility that the first white male he saw running along the rafters and the party he observed carry away the black bag were one and the same. Okay, so this guy says it's a 70% possibility that the first guy running and the guy who came back to get the bag were the same guy. So what was in that bag? And who was this guy? Was he supposed to be up there, to have access to that area? See, these are all questions I think that are worthwhile to ask, and maybe they are answered further down in these documents. I don't know yet. I'm just digging into this one page at a time. This concludes by saying that Mr. Araujo stated he did not see the face of the party on either occasion, due to the fact that they never turned in his direction. Huh. What the? Well, that was weird. That's totally weird. I didn't do that. I didn't touch anything. The app didn't shut down, it just took me back to home page and opened back up right away. That's interesting. It's also weird that when this happened, the video in the editor shows up as completely dark, but the page still shows on the screen. Here, I'll play it again. Like for instance, where this white line is on the screen, that's indicating the frame of film that is displayed here. The video, for whatever reason, it's not viewable in the editor, you see? I'm sure it's just a glitch, but weird nonetheless, so I'm making note of it. But getting back to the documents, that was the statement of Eric Araujo. This was somebody who was at the arena when Owen Hart fell. And he claims he saw this person running, that he never saw the face of the party. So I guess we'll keep looking. We'll have to keep this in mind. Was this person ever identified? The next page of the document says that it's a body exam. So as far as I know for right now, that's the end of the witness statements included in this dossier. But already this is starting out like the first few pages of a really good mystery novel, in my opinion. I mean, I can picture myself being there. I can picture like this shadowy figure, all Scooby-Doo-esque, running along the rafters, you know, with his dark cloak on. And I'm just already hooked, and I cannot wait to dig deeper into these documents. For real, let's review what we have so far. Let's take a look at our witness list. We have Jim Van Zandt and James S. Williams. Both were local number 31 Teamsters responsible for rigging for shows in Kansas City, Missouri-owned facilities. They assembled the rigging during the day, and these two men were on the catwalk with Owen when he fell. And we have a statement for both of them. But according to those statements, there was a third man on the catwalk, and that was Bobby Tolbert. The witness statements say Bobby Tolbert was present during the day the rigging was assembled, and that he worked on the harness system that Owen was to use. According to James Williams' statement, Bobby Tolbert, quote, triple-checked the connections on the harness. It was Bobby who hooked Owen to the rigging, had Owen kneel so he could check the tension on the rope, and it was apparently Bobby who was controlling the rope Owen was attached to when he fell. And there's no statement from Bobby Tolbert in these pages. Now, it is possible that it's tucked in these pages somewhere. I did try to search the documents for the name Bobby Tolbert, but unfortunately the document search doesn't work for these documents. So unless I can figure out how to fix that, navigating these documents is going to suck. But it was also Bobby Tolbert who contacted our next witness, Matt Allman, who was a contract rigger with the WWF, who traveled to Kansas City, Missouri from Orlando, Florida, to help with the rigging for this specific show. According to the statements, Matt Allman personally tested the rigging. And when Owen fell, Mr. Allman was on the floor, standing outside the perimeter wall of the ring. And it was also Matt Allman who stated that Owen took a bag with him to the catwalk. And we do have a statement from Matt. Another witness statement is from Mark Yeaton, the event operations manager of Titan Sports, who was the parent company of the World Wrestling Federation. And all we really gained from that statement was that Mark Yeaton provided WWF corporate contact information to the police. And then there's that statement from the fan who was at the show, Eric Araujo, who claims to have seen someone running from the catwalk towards the lobby and saw someone run to the catwalk, pick up a bag, and carry it away. And he says it's possible they were the same person, but he can't tell for certain because he never saw a face. And that's where we stand right now as far as witnesses and what we know was going on that day prior to Owen's fall. This is just the beginning, and all good investigations begin with unanswered questions. And we need to seek to find answers to the questions that we have. And the more answers we can find, then the more confident we can be to the outcome of this investigation. And so here we go again. We're diving in head first. And that's all I have for today. If you've watched my Benoit series, then you know that I'll be busy making lists, looking into who these people are and if there's anything else notable to mention about them. And I'll definitely share anything I find out in future videos. We are just getting started. If you like what you see and you'd like to support the channel, you can find a link to my Cash App in the description box below. No donation is too small, and contributions of any amount are welcome and greatly appreciated. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and please share this content with anyone you think might be interested. And don't forget to hit that little bell so you receive notifications when future videos drop. Share any thoughts, questions, comments, or suggestions as well. You have been listening to AMK at Purple Sky 11, and as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!